I often wonder when I'll get over this. My fiancée and I were together for 6 years. I proposed to her during COVID, not knowing that she was already having an affair when she accepted my proposal. It's baffling, right? How can someone say yes to a marriage proposal while involved with someone else? Anyway, it's a long tale. I've been writing it out for weeks. It's like therapy for me, not really seeking advice, just trying to share my story. I'm not the most socially adept guy, especially with the ladies. But when I met my fiancée, let's call her Bess, I fell head over heels in love, in an instant. I'd never experienced love before, but I knew she was the one I wanted to spend my life with as soon as we met. Strangely, she seemed to feel the same way about me, and we were discussing kids and moving in together by the end of the week. Everything was wonderful until Discovery Day, at least from my perspective, although it clearly wasn't the same for Bess. One day, I caught a glimpse of a suspicious message on her phone, which made me pause. I couldn't sleep that night and ended up checking her phone while she was asleep. I'm quite tech-savvy, as I make a living from some mobile apps I developed. I'm not super wealthy, but I can comfortably take a year off without financial hardship. Anyway, I didn't find concrete evidence, but I did uncover a lot of suspicious activity like deleted messages. There was also a Snapchat contact with a lot of interactions and pictures of a guy I didn't recognize. So I installed spyware to monitor her phone, opting for the most expensive service I could find, which even allowed me to remotely access the camera and microphone. The following day, Bess was scheduled to go on a 5-day business trip, which wasn't unusual given her sales job. As soon as she left, the messages started pouring in, and I was devastated, even vomiting several times. I couldn't believe what I was reading. For a while, I refused to accept the truth and became obsessed, digging into everything I could access. I discovered that their affair had started over 2 months before I proposed. Her affair partner was a colleague, a married man 10 years her senior, with 3 children and a pregnant wife. The ultimate blow was hearing them together in a hotel room, proclaiming their love for each other, and discussing running away to start a new family. I was completely shattered and didn't know how to handle it. I couldn't muster the courage to confront her directly. Ultimately, I confided in my childhood best friend. Let's call him Kay. Kay grew up in a Brazilian household, and when he and his mother moved in next door when I was 12, this was in the UK, we became close friends despite not speaking the same language initially. I guess we bonded over shared experiences. Kay and I have been inseparable since, even though I'm a shy, nerdy type, and he's outgoing and fearless. I poured my heart out to Kay and showed him the messages and emails I had uncovered. He remained silent for a while, then told me he couldn't provide specific advice. This was something I had to deal with in my own way. He shared his own story of being cheated on and how he exposed his cheating partner to family and friends, and then went no contact. I was lost for the next few days. We packed up Bess's belongings and took them to a storage unit. We changed the locks on my apartment and prepared to pick her up from the airport. When she got into the car, she seemed cheerful and unaware that something was wrong with me. I just said I wasn't feeling well. Kay smiled at her and mentioned a fantastic surprise plan for her at her parents' house. I didn't utter a single word during the entire trip, trying to hide my feelings and forcing a fake smile since Bess got in the car. The rest of the day felt like it was moving in slow motion. I'd already talked to our parents the day before and let them know we were coming over. I mentioned I had a surprise announcement to share when we got there. There were hugs, smiles, and I almost changed my mind at that point. I really care about her parents. They've been incredibly kind and welcoming to me. Soon Bess was sitting on the sofa between her parents. Eventually someone asked about the big surprise and Kay encouraged me to go ahead. I began by expressing my deep affection for her parents and how grateful I was for their warm welcome into their family. Then I got choked up for a few minutes. I had a whole speech prepared, eloquent and well-composed, but I completely forgot it, so I blurted out the truth. I revealed that Bess had been cheating on me with a coworker who had kids, and his wife was 7 months pregnant. The engagement was off, the wedding was canceled, and our relationship was over. I told Bess that her belongings were in a storage container, and I dropped the key on the floor. It was a farewell forever. I left while everyone sat there in stunned silence. I heard Kay tell them that I needed time to heal and not to contact me unless absolutely necessary. In the car, Kay suggested I post the same message on our Facebook group, where we had been planning the wedding. Everyone, including both our families and friends, posted similar messages before leaving the group. Kay kept telling me he was proud of me and that one day I'd look back and be glad I stood up for myself. But at that moment, I just felt numb. Nothing about this situation felt good or real. Our next planned stop was to visit the affair partner's wife. When she opened the door, I blurted out everything without even introducing myself. I think she even slapped me at some point. As I handed her a thumb drive with the evidence, her husband appeared from behind her. His wife immediately started yelling at him to leave and not come near her. He tried making excuses, but when he took a step forward, Kay confronted him, saying, "You heard the lady, get out." After some back and forth, he eventually packed a bag and left. Kay talked to his wife for a while I was trying to process the chaos in my own mind. In the end, we were invited inside Kay's mother's house, and we agreed to stay there until her father could pick her up the next morning. She was afraid her husband might return, and she didn't want to be alone. I felt like I had become invisible. No one acknowledged me, and I sat there crying silently. I understood her situation was much worse than mine, as I wasn't married and didn't have children. Eventually, they all fell asleep, while I continued to cry quietly. I decided I wanted to end it all. I began searching for pills, but I couldn't find any. I was struggling to comprehend the situation. Her father arrived at 5:30 in the morning, and I opened the door for him. He calmly asked me some questions and checked on my well-being before going inside to find his daughter. I just stood there holding the door. Shortly after, Kay came out to talk to me. I stared at him for a moment, then passed out. I woke up in the hospital, and it's been 3 months since all this happened. Kay stayed with me during the first few weeks after I returned home because he was worried I might attempt bad things again. I haven't spoken to my ex-fiancée since. I changed my phone number, blocked her email address, and restricted access on social media. She's come to my door many times, talking through it for hours. She apologizes and begs for forgiveness. She said she ended the affair and that the affair partner's wife reported them to HR, which resulted in her losing her job. Hey guys, this marks the end of part 1 of the story. We're about to continue with part 2, but before we do, as usual, I'd like to ask those who haven't subscribed to please click that subscribe button. Your support means a lot to us and encourages us to present stories in better ways. Now let's move on to the updates. Update. I eventually decided to talk to her parents to see if they could help stop her from coming to my door. I don't care about her reasons or what she wants. I've realized that my perception of her and who she really is are entirely different. I just want her out of my life so I can move on. Before I was ready to speak to her parents, her dad came to my door. He brought a 6-pack of my favorite beer and asked if we could talk. I agreed and told him I was on my way out, suggesting we could walk and talk. I didn't want him inside, not only because my apartment was a mess, but also because I didn't want to risk her suddenly showing up at the door. He opened 2 bottles of beer and we began to chat. Initially, he apologized on behalf of his daughter and mentioned that both his wife and daughter had pressured him to talk to me. He said his daughter was spoiled and selfish, and he hoped she would finally face the full consequences of her actions and maybe become a better person in the future. I asked him if everything was okay between us, and he assured me there were no problems. He even jokingly suggested it might be time for me to get a divorce. Apparently, their confrontation didn't go well after he met me, but this time, he was determined not to back down. It seemed like a long overdue fight for him. As for Kay, he's been a great support, as always. He's been there for me, encouraging and uplifting me. Now that I'm out of it, I realize he was right. One day I'll be proud of what I did. I stood up for myself, something I rarely do, and I feel great about it. I definitely do it again when necessary. My ex showed up at my door again, and this time, I actually talked to her. She begged me to let her in so we could talk. I agreed but told her I had some things to do and suggested we meet at a local park in half an hour. I didn't want her inside my messy place, fearing she might make accusations or something if we met alone. Surprisingly, I wasn't nervous. I actually felt pretty good. So I went to the park, and she was there, crying. We had some meaningless small talk, and she tried to pry into my conversation with her father. I told her that was private between us and none of her business. I was getting bored, so I asked her what she wanted to talk about, and she went on a long rant about how sorry she was and how much she loved me. I forgave her because I didn't want to carry anger, hatred, and hurt anymore. But getting back together is out of the question. People who love each other don't do what she did to me." She cried hysterically, and I watched without feeling much attachment. I called her dad to pick her up, and I told her I hoped she would seek counseling to fix whatever was broken inside her. Then I got an Uber and went to the local animal shelter, where I adopted a kitten. I named the kitten Shiny. Kay joked that he was blinded by my newfound confidence. I named the kitten Shiny as a reminder to always stand up for myself. I'm happy that I took the high road and was honest with her without yelling or name-calling. I've been playing with my amazing kitten and having a lot of fun. Kay is coming over later to play video games and have some beers. I'm still sad about my ex, and I'll miss the good times we had, but I'm also relieved that this chapter of my life is over. It is what it is. Be warned. This is a straightforward tale of sadness and regret. I'm Bonnie Brown, but I was born Bonnie Betsy Lowry. My parents had high hopes for me. I married Benjamin Brown, but it didn't bring me any grace, as you might expect. At 38, I made a mess of my life. Doesn't sound old, right? Well, at the time it felt like it. You know how our society idolizes youth. You work hard, take school seriously, graduate with good grades, find a good job, marry someone great, have a few kids, and just when things are looking up, the world shifts its focus to someone younger. Actually, it wasn't one specific thing. I slowly realized that the young interns at the office were getting all the attention. Men used to flirt with me, and although I didn't let them go too far, it was fun and made me feel attractive. Then one day, that attention disappeared. Life became a series of responsibilities. Work demanded more from me, and my kids needed help with their daily tasks. There were chores, bills, and countless other things. Sure, my husband helped a lot, but I still felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders. In hindsight, I might have been depressed, but I can't say for sure. All I know is that I was drowning in obligations, stuck in an unchanging routine. I must have lost my mind. I'd give anything to have that life back, even just for a day, but I can't because I've lost it all, including my soul. On March 5th, a Wednesday, I was called into the director's office. In 17 days on a Monday, I had to go to New York for a week of training. It was like my company's version of management school, a sign that they saw potential for my promotion. I was on the rise, and I eagerly shared the news with my family. They were supportive, filled with questions and encouragement. I went shopping using Ben's credit card and bought new clothes for the trip. I wanted to make a lasting impression on the up-and-coming professionals from around the country. I wanted them to remember me. Well, they certainly remember me now. Sunday arrived, and I left for the airport after a quick goodbye to my family. I thought they'd understand that I'd be busy with classes and staying at the hotel. I settled into my room, met some people during dinner, and had drinks with Janet, Donna, and Jim. Jim and I even danced. It was a refreshing change from my routine, and I convinced myself it was nothing special. But the guilt crept in, so I excused myself for the night. I realized I hadn't called home, but it was too late to make that call. Despite my emotions, I stayed focused on the classes. Every evening we met at the bar for drinks. I danced with many men, but Jim held my attention. I felt youthful once more. As the nights went on, Jim and I grew closer, maybe too close. We danced for hours, and one night we never even made it back to the dance floor. We even had a passionate encounter before parting ways. I felt young and reckless, as if I had no responsibilities. Occasionally, guilt crept in, but Jim diverted my thoughts. Looking back, he offered nothing my husband couldn't provide. His kisses weren't romantic, and his voice didn't soothe. All he gave were 2 nights of passion and a quick encounter before leaving. On the flight home, returning to my life, reality wondered me hard. I had cheated on my husband, the man I loved, with a near stranger, and I did it without remorse. Worse, I did it in front of others who silently judged me, not out of jealousy, but disappointment. In just a few days, my reputation would be ruined, and I'd be labeled as promiscuous in every office nationwide. It was only a matter of time before news of my actions reached my workplace. I worried about how to keep this from Ben. Even though he wasn't particularly close to my co-workers, he did attend company events occasionally, like Christmas parties and barbecues. Sooner or later, someone would spill the beans, and then what could I do? Somebody would eventually spill the beans? And then what would I do? Even worse, what if I had contracted a disease? Dread consumed me for the rest of the flight. It felt like my fate was sealed, and it was just a matter of time before my life, my husband, my kids, and my home were all in jeopardy. I tried to think of a way to put that week behind me, but I couldn't. Adding to the stress, I didn't even have his cell phone number. He was just a man who desired me more than those young interns, someone I could enjoy for a few days without any responsibilities. From that point on, I was walking on thin ice. The plane brought me closer to my fate, and I saw no way out except to face it and deal with the consequences. I considered telling Ben and throwing myself at his mercy, but what if he couldn't forgive me? I knew I could never forgive myself if I were in his shoes. When I finally got home, I knew that Ben would want. I had been away for nearly a week, and turning him down would hurt him. But the fear ate away at me. What if I had contracted something during that week? If I gave it to Ben, he'd surely figure it out, and I'd be worse than anyone in his eyes. My heart raced uncontrollably, and for a moment I entertained the thought of having a heart attack, hoping it would somehow spare me from the impending disaster. But luck was not on my side. The drive home was agonizing. With every mile, it felt like I was marching toward my own doom, and I had no way to stop it. As I walked through our front door, I hoped it would still be our front door. I was greeted by the joyful cries of, "Mommy's home!" 3 children rushed to hug me, and my husband showered me with kisses. Everyone was smiling, eager to hear about my week, what I had experienced, what I had done, and what it was like. I nearly broke down right then and there, but I managed to keep my composure. What had I done? How could I tell them what I had done? I looked from child to child and saw nothing but love. My husband was thrilled by my return. Everyone was delighted to see me, and I was surrounded by love from all sides. I didn't deserve any of it. I had betrayed them all. I put on a brave face and told them all about the course, the meals, and the sights and sounds of the city. I left out the affair, how I acted in front of everyone, and my betrayal. From that evening on, I lived in fear of being discovered, and then the desire to be intimate came. I couldn't refuse without raising suspicions. I convinced myself that Jim wasn't a bad guy, that he was clean, and I resolved to be the best, most loving wife imaginable. I was determined that if Ben ever found out, his love for me would outweigh the anger and hurt, and he would forgive me. But I forgot one thing. Opus update. Fast forward 4 months, and I was starting to believe I had gotten away with it. I swore to myself I'd never repeat my mistake, never betray Ben and the kids. I was committed to being the perfect wife. Then, one day I came home, expecting to prepare dinner for the family. The house was silent. There were no voices, no activity, none of the chaos I had once taken for granted. Instead, Ben sat quietly in a chair, looking dejected, with tears streaming down his face. "Ben, what's wrong, honey? Are you okay? I received an email at work today. It seems you must have angered someone at your office, said something wrong, made them mad. Whatever you did, they really dislike you." "What did I do? I usually get along with everyone." "I don't know. I just got an email today with some cell phone photos of you at your training course. Remember when you went away for that week of training? It looks like you had a good time. It looks like the guy you were with had an especially good time." I heard my husband's words, and I wanted to deny everything. I wanted to tell him I loved him and only him, that there could never be anyone else for me but him. But I couldn't. My mind went blank, and I sat there with my mouth open, just staring into space. Was this the beginning of the end? Would I lose everything because of a week of foolishness, more than I had ever done before or would ever do again? Was my life as I knew it over? He had the proof. There were no pictures from inside the bedrooms, but he had photos of me doing things in public that I couldn't remember doing. He showed me the images, and pictures don't lie. I was dancing too closely with Jim, kissing him on the dance floor, and at our table. There was even a photograph of Jim's hand on my leg and up my skirt as we sat at the table. It was over. My fate was sealed. I confessed everything and begged for forgiveness. Ending number 1. I had to try. Tears in my eyes, I said, "Ben, I am so very sorry. I want you to know that nothing like this has ever happened before, and it will never happen again. Sweetheart, I love you so much. I love the life we have together. Please, please give me a second chance. I promise you won't regret it. I'll make you forget the one and only time I ever did something so stupid. You won't regret it. I promise." Believe it or not, that's exactly what my loving, amazing husband did or tried to do. He didn't ask for more details. He didn't make me recount my actions or explain why. He just sat there and cried for hours as he slowly withered inside. I held him, kissed him, and assured him of my love, pledging to take away his pain and never hurt him again. I did everything I could to keep that promise. So I mentioned that I forgot one thing, right? I forgot that when you break a man's heart, you can't always mend it. This man who loved me unconditionally, who existed to make me happy, was broken beyond repair. He never smiled again. He never laughed again. We sometimes made love, but it felt like his mind was elsewhere, imagining me with someone else. I did everything in my power to heal him, but it was never enough. The kids grew up, got jobs, and moved away. We still slept next to each other, but there was a quiet sadness in the house. Eventually, I realized that it wasn't just the physical affair that had ruined my life. I had shattered my husband's sense of self-worth, his feeling of being loved, and his belief that his life had meaning. I came to a crossroads. I could either leave him, giving him the chance to find another woman who could rebuild the man I had destroyed, or I could stay and try my best to be a loving wife, even if he never saw me the same way again. I knew that leaving would only confirm what my infidelity had told him, that he was worthless as a husband and a man. So I stayed, and I watched this wonderful man slowly crumble until there was little left of the man I had married. Somehow my kids found out what I had done. Ben never told them. He wouldn't do that to them or me. How they found out, I don't know, but they did. It created a rift between us that never fully healed. They witnessed their father's slow decline, and they knew it was all my fault. You see, I never went through with the divorce I had contemplated on that flight home all those years ago. But I lost my husband and my children just as surely and completely as if they had all left me and moved away. Oh, they left me all right, but they never physically went away. Ending number 2. So, as I mentioned, I forgot one important thing, didn't I? I failed to realize that when you break a man's heart, you irreversibly change him. The man who once loved me unconditionally, who existed to make me happy, was now beyond repair. He tried, really tried. We had conversations, I poured my heart out, and we even sought counseling. All I wanted was to see him happy again, to wipe away the pain and disappointment I had brought into his life. But 6 months later, we decided to call it quits. I would have done anything to make him happy for the rest of my life, to make him forget. However, he had nothing left. I had taken it all from him and cast it away. Ben didn't move far, and he remained a part of our lives almost every day. Yet, he was no longer my loving husband. He devoted his time and heart to our kids and remained polite to me. But the joy and love were gone. Betrayal has a way of erasing a man's view of his wife as something special and unique, transforming her into something ordinary, something to be scorned. I never remarried or dated. The man I loved stayed in my life, though at a distance, and that was enough to sustain me. Ending number 3. 6 months later, it seemed like we were on the path to recovery. Those had been 6 tough, guilt-ridden months. Life at home was far from normal, yet the anger had subsided, and both of us cried less often. I'm certain there were moments when he considered giving up, but he never did. And I wouldn't either. I was ready to apologize for the rest of my life. However, in a therapy session, there came a day when Ben turned to me with a profound sadness in his eyes and said, "You messed up, but it's time to stop now. I don't need your apologies anymore. I hope you never stop feeling remorse, but we both need to move forward." At that moment, I thought it was the end for us. The words "move forward" echoed in my mind, and I was convinced he was asking for a divorce. But then he continued, "I love you, Bonnie. I despise what you did. And if I ever see that guy again, I might want to punch him. But I want the woman I married back in my life. I want her back in my bed to see her smile and hear her laughter. I want to grow old with her. We'll never forget what happened, but we can try to forgive." Tears welled up in his eyes. The rest of that session remains a blur in my memory. I clung to my husband, hugging and kissing him, crying and thanking him over and over. I was so afraid when he started speaking that I couldn't let go of him, fearing it might be the last time. There were moments when I could see the pain in his eyes, and I understood what he was thinking. We never needed to say a word. I would simply go to him, stand beside him, or sit next to him, hugging him as if it were our last embrace, waiting until I saw him smile again. It always brought tears to my eyes even now, because I know he carries that pain with him. I hurt this man deeply for no good reason, yet he forgave me. I will spend the rest of my life being the wife he truly deserves and offering prayers of gratitude for the second chance I received. On that significant day in August 2005, my friend, an 18-year-old high school graduate, burst into the door of our cozy two-room apartment, and I couldn't believe my incredible luck. Her lifelong dream of becoming an actress had always seemed quite achievable to me, given her undeniable beauty and exceptional talent. This was unsurprising, considering her vibrant cheerleading background and active involvement in various school drama productions throughout her school years. With her whole future ahead of her, the acting profession appeared to be a reachable reality. While my girlfriend had always been resolute about pursuing a career as an actress, I was still contemplating the direction of my own life. I wasn't particularly interested in college and was content working at McDonald's, allowing my girlfriend to take the lead. However, that day marked a turning point. Filled with excitement, she shared the news that she had secured a minor role in a highly acclaimed blockbuster film. It was an incredible development. Though she only had 2 lines to deliver, it felt like a monumental step toward fulfilling her dream. She explained that the lead role in this fantastic opportunity was being played by a regular customer from Hooters restaurant. After promising her a role, and even booking a ticket to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I unquestionably believed in the opportunity that had arisen. Despite my naivety, I refrained from asking how she had managed to land such an incredible chance. In the evening, we gathered with friends to celebrate this momentous occasion. Each moment brought us closer to the allure and grandeur of Hollywood. Eager to have me accompany her on this journey, she reached out to a mysterious sponsor who generously purchased a ticket for me as well. Her happiness was infectious, and I had never seen her so elated before. Upon arriving in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we were met with opulence. Checking into a luxurious hotel for 4 days was a thrilling experience. While my girlfriend was occupied with her scenes for 2 of those days, I didn't mind. I made the most of the opportunity, soaking up the atmosphere of stunning beaches and basking in the warm sun. The remaining days felt like an uninterrupted vacation, filled with beach excursions, lively parties, and even encounters with celebrities involved in the film production. It was like a dream come true. All of this served as motivation that fueled our desire for the glamorous lifestyle that the film industry offered. Upon returning to Pennsylvania, we couldn't shake off the allure of that world. We knew that our path led to Los Angeles, where my friend could wholeheartedly pursue her dreams in the film industry. Her time in St. Vincent and the Grenadines had allowed her to forge valuable connections with influential individuals. Furthermore, she firmly believed that upon our return to Pennsylvania, we should use the $15,300 she earned to embark on this incredible journey. Using a portion of her earnings from the film, we managed to secure a modest apartment in Los Angeles, brimming with hope and anticipation. We were stepping into a new chapter of our lives. Days turned into months, and my girlfriend faced the challenging task of securing significant film roles in this bustling city. Every morning, she woke up early and attended auditions in the hope of achieving a long-awaited breakthrough. Unfortunately, she mainly came across minor roles in local business advertisements that offered meager compensation, falling short of our expectations. As her earnings from the movie role began to dwindle, we found ourselves needing to invest in new clothing and photographs for auditions. Recognizing the need to support ourselves, I decided to take a job at a fast food restaurant. It may not have been glamorous, but it provided us with the opportunity to start earning money and sustain our livelihood. As our savings dwindled, I witnessed her hopes and dreams gradually fade in her eyes. Every evening we returned home burdened by the weight of rejections and disappointments, as she came face to face with the harsh realities and fierce competition of the film industry in Los Angeles. In our small Pennsylvania town, she had been considered the epitome of beauty. But in this sprawling city, beauty was commonplace. Months turned into nearly a year, and she still couldn't secure a substantial role for herself. The clothing she bought was now secondhand, and prospects for advancement seemed uncertain. Eventually, she took a job as a shopping mall model, a significant departure from our lofty aspirations. Nevertheless, it allowed, albeit with difficulty, for the bills to be paid. During this period, I found my own path in life as a fitness trainer. Balancing two jobs, one at a restaurant and the other training numerous clients, I aimed to provide stability and support. Our lives were consumed by individual pursuits, and as a result, we seldom found time for each other. Our dreams of success in the entertainment industry appeared to be slipping away, overshadowed by the demands of our busy lives. With each passing day, our dreams seemed to grow more distant. The unforgiving nature of the film and entertainment industry began to wear down my girlfriend's spirit, and I could only helplessly watch as she confronted the harsh reality that achieving success in Hollywood was far from the easy dream we had once envisioned. As time passed, her excessive spending drained our finances completely, and we began to struggle to make ends meet. I became increasingly frustrated with her for depleting our savings at an alarming rate. Finally, we managed to replenish our depleted savings. It happened unexpectedly when I was rummaging through her purse searching for something and stumbled upon a bundle of $1,500. Intrigued, I couldn't help but inquire about where she had obtained such a large sum of money. She appeared flustered, but explained that a photographer she met at the mall had invited her to take pictures at his lavish mansion. I couldn't resist asking why she hadn't mentioned it earlier, to which she replied that she had intended to but somehow forgot. Curiosity got the better of me, and I continued my questioning, wanting to ensure the legitimacy of her earnings. She assured me that everything was fine. However, as she spoke of her best photos and posing in various outfits for professional photographers, doubt began to creep into my mind. Despite our naive understanding of the industry, I couldn't ignore suspicions about the potential for exploitation or ulterior motives. After all, we had heard stories of people in Hollywood willing to pay exorbitant sums for almost anything. I grew curious and asked her to show me the photos. To my surprise, she mentioned that producers rarely provided copies, and it would take some time before anything would be known about the photo shoots. In my naivety, I accepted her explanation without delving deeper into the matter. This situation persisted for the next 2 years. She frequently returned home late at night, attributing it to earning money by frequenting clubs and occupying VIP seats. She often claimed that her involvement in these projects was limited to gatherings in the VIP section. In other instances, she explained that some producers preferred conducting auditions and shooting scenes during the nighttime. However, as her nocturnal escapades became more frequent, a sense of unease settled within me. Worries about her safety and the company she kept began to overwhelm me. She tried to allay my concerns, arguing that she wasn't the only one engaging in such activities, and that many of her friends were compensated similarly. But suspicions persisted in my mind, causing me to question the reality of her actions. Over time, I began to take notice of the company she was keeping, which primarily consisted of individuals typically associated with the adult film industry. Yet, in my naivety, I believed they were simply models. She defended herself by explaining that she had no control over her work schedule, as producers dictated her whereabouts and responsibilities. I tried to logically assess the situation, convincing myself that some producers might genuinely prefer nighttime shoots. All of this seemed to align logically with my limited understanding of the industry. One day, while taking a smoke break near our apartment, a pivotal moment occurred that shattered my illusions. A man in a large SUV pulled up and dropped her off right in front of our house. In that moment, my views on her nocturnal adventures were called into question, leaving me stunned. Shocked by what I witnessed, I couldn't muster the courage to immediately confront her. Instead, I went inside the house and discreetly observed her through the blinds as she entered. Anxiety gripped me at that moment. With a determined decision to uncover the truth about her activities, I secretly planned to follow her the next Friday when she went out. On that Friday, she went on a date with her friends, and I quietly began trailing her. In the end, she ended up at a club with a long line outside. To my surprise, the club's promoter granted my girlfriend and her friends special privileges, allowing them to bypass the long queue and enter the establishment swiftly. In my quest for answers, I reluctantly had to bribe a bouncer generously to gain entry. Inside the club, I carefully scanned the crowd, desperately searching for her. Finally, I spotted her in the VIP section, chatting animatedly and enjoying drinks with her friends. It seemed to match her earlier explanation, and I lingered there for a while. As I began to grow tired and prepare to leave, doubts about the man in the SUV still nagged at me. But those doubts quickly vanished when I realized it was just an Uber Black, and I felt foolish for suspecting betrayal. After scolding myself for being paranoid, I convinced myself that everything was fine and returned to my normal routine. At the time, I worked as a fitness trainer and also dabbled in multi-level marketing, selling dietary supplements and insurance. Thankfully, my average earnings covered rent and my living expenses. When I took charge of managing my own finances, I couldn't help but notice changes in my girlfriend's behavior and appearance. She became more secretive about her financial matters, which raised concerns for me. Occasionally, she displayed aggression toward me, only to apologize later, claiming it was unintentional. Furthermore, she started concealing her finances and paid less attention to her spending, leaving me questioning her financial habits. Despite initially trying to brush these concerns aside, I couldn't ignore the significant decline in her financial stability. She began losing a considerable amount of weight, hardly ate, showed signs of excessive nervousness, and experienced sleep problems. She often slept for extended periods, causing me to worry about her well-being. In my attempt to address her health issues, I made sure she ate properly, attributing her behavior to stress. However, one night as I woke up, I noticed she wasn't in our bed. Baffled, I followed the noise coming from the bathroom, driven by anxiety. To my horror, I discovered my girlfriend using a prohibited substance in the bathroom. I stumbled upon a stash of illegal substances which caught her by surprise. In a panic, she attempted to hide everything but ended up spilling it on the floor. Her desperate actions to salvage the substances resembled a beggar clutching at scattered money. It marked a turning point in our relationship. Overwhelmed by emotions, both of us broke down in tears. She sincerely apologized and pledged to seek help and undergo rehabilitation immediately. It felt as though she had journeyed to Los Angeles, but lost not only herself, but also our connection along the way. Unflinchingly addressing her issues, she bravely kept her promise and checked into a rehabilitation center the very next day. Throughout her month-long stay at the clinic, she displayed genuine remorse and determination, clinging to the hope of overcoming this dark phase and resurrecting her dream. When she completed her rehabilitation program and returned home, she appeared revitalized and filled with newfound strength and resolve. A wave of relief washed over me. Her return was particularly significant as my birthday approached. We had a tradition of going all out for each other's birthdays, always striving to outdo ourselves and create unforgettable celebrations. One day she came home, casually tossing her purse next to me, and went to the bathroom. Curiosity got the better of me, and a few days before my birthday, I decided to search her bag. To my astonishment, I stumbled upon a CD labeled Pilot, and excitement and anticipation surged through me. Without hesitation, I popped it into the DVD player, eager to discover its contents, anticipating it might be a surprise related to me, or perhaps footage of a screen test she attended. I was utterly shocked and filled with anger as the unexpected truth unfolded on the screen. The video showed my girlfriend engaging in intimate activities with another man. It was an image I could hardly fathom. Overwhelmed by emotions, I stormed into the bathroom where she was showering, venting my anger and demanding an immediate explanation for her involvement in such actions. As she emerged from the shower, I noticed she was trembling, and she offered heartfelt apologies. She admitted that what I witnessed was initially meant as a one-time encounter, but had spiraled out of control. I could scarcely comprehend her words. Confused and in search of clarity, I asked her how long she had been involved in this industry. Reluctantly, she confessed that it had been ongoing for over a year. My confusion deepened when she struggled to provide an exact count of how many times she had participated in such activities. Citing the frequency blurred the boundaries and made it hard to keep track. What struck me even more was that the dates and timestamps on the videos coincided with the period when I believed she was in a rehabilitation center seeking help, not pursuing adult films for financial gain. Determined to rebuild my life, I cut off all contact with my ex-girlfriend and focused on my career as a fitness trainer and my involvement in multi-level marketing. Unfortunately, the latter turned out to be a pyramid scheme that was eventually shut down by authorities, dashing my hopes. Undeterred, I decided to invest my savings in opening a gym. However, the high expenses in California posed a significant challenge. Opting to join the Planet Fitness franchise, I seized the opportunity to open a small gym in my Pennsylvania hometown before leaving California. Wanting to be transparent, I reached out to my ex-girlfriend to inform her of my departure. Despite our breakup 6 months earlier, our connection remained strong, and our phone conversations stirred up emotions in both of us. She spoke of feeling abandoned, emphasizing that I had brought her to California and then abandoned her when she needed me most. Her words left me speechless, and I found myself immersed in memories of our shared youth and the dreams we once held together. Having made the decision to return to my hometown, I took the initiative to establish the Planet Fitness Center. As the business began to thrive, I also found solace in close relationships that brought joy and fulfillment back into my life. However, over time I heard unsettling rumors that my ex-girlfriend had turned to a life of street-based solicitation to support her illegal substance use. Initially skeptical, I decided to investigate and discover the truth firsthand. What I uncovered left me utterly shocked. The person I once knew had become a mere shell, devoid of the vibrant soul I had cherished. About 2 years after the opening of my gym, the situation took an unexpected turn. Everything had been going smoothly for me. The membership at my gym kept growing and it seemed like life was on a positive trajectory. But then, an unexpected and devastating piece of news reached me. My ex-girlfriend had passed away while with a client, having consumed an excessive amount of a prohibited substance. The moment I received this heart-wrenching information, chills ran down my spine, and I rushed home. Unable to contain my emotions, I sat on the shower floor, overcome by uncontrollable grief and tears. To this day, I still carry guilt and never cease to wonder if I could have done something differently. Despite reassurances from my therapist, pain and regret continued to weigh heavily on my heart.